had Maggie the chicken. Even compared to some of the veteran actors on that set, she was the star. And I think she deserves her shine.
I really should speak to your mother.
She's busy.
They're gonna split us up and adopt me because I'm young and pretty. And they'll keep you in the home because you look like you got problems.
I'll fix it. It will be fine. We'll be fine.
Where is she? What's the chicken for?
We started with the play, and then I was allowed to just do anything, like break out with all the characters and do what I wanted. And then if we just kept on going back to the play and the heart of the play and what we wanted to say.
I read the script and I said, this is definitely something that I want to work on. Just the story. I'd never seen it set somewhere like that before with these sorts of characters. Janice's writing is incredible. So yeah, that was my thoughts. No thoughts, because my mind was blown.
A lot of the cast, I felt like they were the characters. When we were trying to cast, it was just like, oh my God, that's them. It was such a relief that they just did it. They just went with it. So that's when I sort of know that it's really good, because they can just do it.
The one thing that drew me in was, of course, the writing. Janice's writing. I don't know how she does it, but she's able to just like beautifully mesh both themes together so coherently. So it made it that much easier for me to understand the content. It wasn't a conventional way that you would normally get into an entire project. It was more or less done like 2 days before we started filming, where I first got in the room and met everyone. So yeah, it was quite abrupt, but still at the same time it was so exhilarating, because I got to take it all in, all at once on the spot. Yeah, I done a chemistry read with the two actors that play my sisters in the show, and it sort of went off from there, really.
One of my closest friends, she sent me, because they did the open call, she sent that to me because obviously I'm from Birmingham, and I saw it and I was like, what are the chances that an open call is gonna amount to something? But then it got sent through via my old agent, and I auditioned, did the recall, did the chemistry read, and then I booked the job.
I was a little bit more conventional, yeah. The audition came through and I was able to read some of it. And I was aware of Janice's play, Three Birds from before. So I knew already kind of like the caliber of the writing that we'd be working with. And I read for it and just found it incredibly, and this is a compliment, but like incredibly easy to understand feel good, and his motivations and why he's doing the things he's doing. And to me, that is always such a clear sign of top writing. And then when I found out I got the part, it was like, oh, fantastic, now I've got to go up and do a read of all of these episodes in this accent that I've kind of just started to get my head around. So but thankfully everyone was very welcoming and was always there for me for pointers, and I just tried to wrap my head around it. And it was kind of, from the get-go, it was very clear everyone was going to be very collaborative, very supportive, and create a really kind of successful working environment.
We hadn't shown Black communities outside London, and we really wanted to do that. So initially it was quite daunting, but it was amazing. It's just the best thing. As soon as the actors started to speak, it just felt very, very special. And I'm so glad they made that decision. It's just amazing.
With crew, yeah, it was a lot of people from the Midlands, Solihull, inner city Birmingham, someone from Handsworth, like my area. I was like, oh, do you know this person? He has a cousin that I went to the same school with. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. This is real. Like, and it was nice to work with a crew that was based in the Midlands, because usually they bring people up from London to work on these different productions, and it's like, why not hire or source locally? Do you know what I mean? So that was nice to work with. The first day on set, which is the no scrub scene in the car, I think for the first day on set, the first day like properly working with Khalees and Kadra was just, it was a dream. You know what I mean? We were just in the car jamming. It didn't even feel like work. Like, we was just having a hoot. And it was like that for a lot of the shoot. Like, it was genuinely enjoyable. It is work, and obviously you get down and you graft when you need to, but it was just a nice experience. I think for your first experience, that's what you'd want.
The penultimate scene with Ivano, who plays Tion's dad, Leo, in the show. Without giving too much away, it was my favorite scene to film because Tion's going on an arc throughout this series, and he physically, emotionally, and mentally changes and develops as the series goes on, which is, I suppose, some reflection of, you know, adolescence. But at this particular point, this particular scene that I'm referring to, it's a crescendo for Tion, you know, as a character. And, you know, when I first read this particular scene, I just knew straight away that this was going to be, you know, a very revealing moment for Tion. It delves so much into the themes that I'm interested in, you know, such as, you know, our perception of masculinity and going into the emotional vulnerability of this character. Yeah, it was really beautiful to sort of dissect, especially just being a young black man.
Mate, that was proper beautiful work from you and Ivana in that scene, mate, honestly.
Thank you so
I
much.
thought it was so great. There's lots of moments I really thoroughly enjoyed. One in particular, though, which really sticks out to me was there's a scene where myself and little Kadra end up stealing something from a store and hopping on a push bike and riding away off into the sunset. And it's a real quite a euphoric moment, particularly for Kadra's character Tanika, who's really, you know, down in the dumps at that time. So I think to shoot that with her, and she did so well and was so kind of forthcoming and just threw herself in. We had a really good fun shooting that stuff.
Was it Kadra's first role in a TV show?
Yes, it was. She was street cast, so she never acted before. So not even her first ever acting experience. And she was just phenomenal, so natural.
She was so funny as well, because obviously, like you say, Janice, it was her first ever thing. So why should she know any better? But there's so many times when we'd be like, you know, turn the camera around on her for her coverage, and we'd shout action, and she'd just like have a mouthful of sweets.
She could just switch it on.
Yeah.
Oh, so brilliant. Yeah. You know,
yes, unprofessional but professional. She was excellent.
Oh, honestly, and then she just switch it on, and suddenly we'd all be looking at each other like, "Damn, we gotta turn this up now." Because she was quality. She was brilliant.
Yeah, she is.
And she could also improvise. Sometimes I'd turn up and be like, "Who told her to do that?" And that would say like, "Oh, she just did it herself." You know, talent, so talented.
Not a lot of people have asked us about working with Maggie the chicken, and I think she deserves her shine. We had Maggie the chicken, and then they brought in some like regular chickens on some days, and because obviously she's a trained chicken, designed, you know, she trains for TV, and I think even compared to some of the veteran actors on that set, she was the star. So shout out to Maggie and Pets on set. She went to RADA. She did. She went to Central.
Well, initially we had 3 birds, but remember Lenny Henry had a show, didn't he, called 3 Little Birds, so we couldn't do that. And then, so we just had to think of something. We just brainstormed, basically. Then we go again. I think Jade, producer, came up with We Go Again. We're just like, that's just a hold all. And then it was so funny because we were in the edit and we were just thinking of, we need something. It was just brainstorming, us in the room. It was really good. And then we're like, that's it. It was a really nice moment.
What I've always found whenever, it's testament to the writing, but yeah, like whether you're playing drama or whether you're playing comedy, at the end of the day, it's not the character in a comedic situation doesn't think they're in a comedic situation. You know what I mean? They're living the stress of that moment, and it's the situation that they're in as the viewer we find entertaining. So from the acting point of view, you're just trying to be as true as you can to the circumstances, and often it's immensely stressful, but because the writing's so charming and so kind of brilliantly done, it is entertaining in those moments. So yeah, for the actor, I don't think, obviously there's some timing involved, but you're not necessarily thinking, right, this is a comedy scene now, or right, this is a dramatic scene now. You're just trying to stay true, and that it just kind of breathes itself.
You know what the scene is, you know what the scene prior to it, or you ask yourself why the scene that you're in, or you ask why they differ, try and understand why, and yeah, you just do what's on the script. Like I wasn't deep in it like that, and I wasn't like, oh, I have to be funny here. It's like I said, you find it in the scene, you have fun. And that's the thing with working with everyone on this job. They're so spontaneous. And they just give you something new, gave you something new every single time.
There's a lot of pockets within the script where there are opportunities to, bring out the comedic aspect of the show. For myself, portraying Tion in particular, he's dealing with this circumstance in a very different way to his siblings. So, at first you might be figuring where is the comedic aspect with Tion, but again, through the writing and the absurdity of these circumstances, you get to pick these pockets, these really beautiful and authentic moments where you can see both sides of the character, both the the comedic side, the joyous side, and of course foreshadowed by the circumstance that they're in, the sort of slightly more serious side of it. So yeah, spot on to what Sam said. It's all through the writing, honestly, that we're able to execute both sides of this.
What is the heart of the show? I just think the authenticity between us all. I think because for a lot of us, it was our first job. Like, Kaja was casted from that open court. Some of us are not as polished. Like, I didn't go to drama school. I didn't go to full-time drama school. I went to part-time drama school. And yeah, I just think there's just something about the unpolishedness of us all that we kind of could just be free on set and just do what came to our heads and do whatever we felt like doing, and we weren't like, oh no, we shouldn't do that because we're da-da-da-da-da. Do you know what I mean? We just did whatever. It's
definitely family, but I think most of the themes throughout the show are so pertinent to today's society. I think there's a lot of relatability to every single one of these characters. And with that being said, I think at episode 1, you could completely hate one character, and by episode 3 you could completely understand where they've come from and why it is that they're doing what they're doing. You have a lot of sympathy for their character, which again I say is honestly just testament to the writing there.
For me, something that I really took away from it was kind of like the rat race that is this is like society that we're living in at the moment, and how hard it is for people just to get their heads above the parapet in a way and kind of just make ends meet and survive. And personally, as I was playing, Feel Good and that his kind of arc, you had all the struggles that the kids were going through and their issues, and then you had him on the other side of it who wasn't a million miles away in the sense that he just wanted to be something better as well. And the same with his friend Paul. There's a lot of these characters that are all just desperately trying to make something better for themselves in this kind of powder keg of this estate.
There's something for everyone in there, and I also think it's able to really talk about really serious matters without slamming you over the head with it, so that you can just absorb it and have joy as well. I think it's a joyous show.
There are so many facets of this show which make it so relatable, and I think that's what people are looking for, really and truly. They're looking for that authenticity. They're almost looking for a mirror, ironically, when they go into a cinema or when they're watching a TV show. You sort of want this escapism. Through that same lens, you're getting that reflection of what society is and what it can be. So I think, just the authenticity of the show is what makes it, that much more relatable, and therefore, that much more enjoyable.